and welcome to Furious Driving, and today I'm at the wheel of one of the UK's rarest cars, even more rare in fact, because this car is actually a one owner from new car back in 1981. Yes, this is a Talbot Avenger, not just any Avenger, but a Talbot Avenger. Now a quick word from our sponsors and on with the review. Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Bidding Classics, the online classic car marketplace with more cars added every week. Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours with 10% off using code FD10. And Lancaster Insurance cover the Furious fleet. They are one of the biggest specialist insurers in the UK, covering all areas of vintage to modern classic cars and motorbikes. Follow the links in the description below. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and today we're looking at one of the rarest cars on the UK's roads. A car more interesting than, say, a GT40, because this is a Talbot Avenger. And the Avenger was one of the most popular cars in Britain for over a decade, first appearing in 1970 and finally vanishing in 1981, although they stopped building them in 1980. And they only badged them as a Talbot for less than 2 years. Let's take a look around. This was the Roots Group Cortina arrival, and it arrived just in time to battle the Mark III Cortina in 1970. And it was the first and indeed the last car to be developed by Roots after Chrysler took over in 1967. The Americana-influenced Coke bottle waistline did take some clever designing by Roy Axe to make its proportions work. Now Roots also wanted to cash in on the company car phenomenon, businesses rewarding their employees with a car to take home, so there needed to be something pretty flash and exciting on top, which this was, but pretty easy to maintain underneath, which this is. It has a 4-link coil-sprung live axle at the back, it's rear-wheel drive obviously, front-engined, longitudinal, it's an all-new, all-iron 4-cylinder, initially available as a 1250 or a 1500, but that grew to a bigger range as the years went by. So the front of the car is interesting for a number of reasons, notably, not this version, but at first it was the first British car with an all-encompassing black plastic grille surrounding the headlights apparently. Secondly, on these later versions we have this lovely sculpted grille with matching slanted sculpted headlights, these big blocky very modern looking headlights for the time it was produced. Thirdly, now because this car went through a number of ownership changes, initially it was Roots under Chrysler Europe, so it was known as a variety of things including the Chrysler Avenger. When Chrysler pulled out of Europe and sold their European holdings to Peugeot PSA Group, it became a Peugeot product. So looking at these headlamps, we have got not only the Lucas manufacturing logo on it, we've got the Chrysler Pentastar up here because it's designed under Chrysler, and we've also got the Peugeot Lion, so there's more logo than glass area on the headlights. Now here is that all-iron engine. It is unrelated to anything in any of the other Roots cars. It's not related to the Arrows engine, and it's definitely not related to the Imp engine. What is interesting though is the fact it's on a carburetor just here and electronic ignition over there. It is quite an innovative car, and they've even done little clever things like on the later versions. Your windscreen washer bottle is filled through here with the tank underneath the wing. So let's take a look around inside the Avenger. Now first of all, we've got these lovely squeezy door handles. Pop it open. Feels very modern and advanced, and something you'll notice on this car, although it is a 1970 design, we have got no body colour metalwork exposed on the door when it's shut, which is very, very high class. So things like the Cortina are already losing points in this battle because this is suddenly feeling a bit more premium. Got a nice armrest, we've got windy window, big door handle, and a curious little door lock just there. Stepping in, wow, this is as orange on the inside as it is on the outside, and that is very, very orange indeed. It's a honey beige delight. It's absolutely fantastic. This is the kind of colour that really does grab people's attention in all the right ways. First of all, let's look at the fabric on this thing. Beautiful brushed nylon pattern. This is one of the first British cars, again, another first for it, to use brushed nylon seats, virtually velour almost. And we've got matching orange carpets and orange plastic. We even have an orange dashboard, which does look really quite striking. Obviously you wouldn't get an orange dashboard in other cars, they would match the colour to the car, but this is a very modern looking dashboard indeed. No T-shelf, absolute T-shelf fail. If you put your mug on there, it's going to be straight in your lap, so it's only a 0 out of 10 for T-shelfery. A poor showing for the Avenger just here. What is quite exciting though is that they were really getting into the badging market, because this binnacle area here was available in 3 different versions depending what trim level you bought. Now this car may only be an LS, but because it was a run-out model built at the very, very tail end of production, in fact it sat in a field at Ryton factory for about a year before it was sold, it got a lot of the upgrade features, including the GLS dashboard, and the premium feature of 1980 was 4 sub-dials around your speedo and tachometer. So we've got oil, water, battery and fuel surrounding the speedometer and the tacho, redlining at 6,000 RPM, detonating the engine at 8,000 RPM. Now, there's a couple of ways you can tell it's a genuine Talbot rather than one that an enthusiast has added badges to later, and apparently the T badge on the steering wheel is one of those ways. Now, this may look like a horn, but that's a trick designed to fool people who are not bright enough to work out it's actually over here on one of the 3 stalks. On the engine here, horn test. Oh, that's a pure iron brew parp belying its Linwood, Scotland roots. In front of that, we've got our indicators and our wipers, and even a washer on the little stalk just there. Very modern indeed. Hidden behind them, we have got square buttons for our hazard lights, our brake light test, fog lights and rear green heater. And pulling back, we can see a very modern looking single spoke wheel. It's almost French, Peugeot-ish in its design. There may be a reason for this. Now moving left, we have got heater and ventilation controls in the centre, and under here it looks like a blanking plate. In fact, it is the ashtray sitting below your 12-volt socket. So you can charge your phone and put your sweetie wrappers in there. More modern radio than it would have had, and the speaker grille here in the centre. And again, showing its roots back in the 1970s, there's nothing here in the centre, no centre console. But we do have a 4-speed manual gearbox. A 3-speed auto is an option. You can imagine how slow that would be with a 1300 or a 1250 though, best avoided. Underneath there we have got a large cubby area, no actual glove box, but we have got a huge glove area down there, a sub-T shelf if you will. One nice little touch in this car, which it has had since new, are these Talbot mats. Can you imagine how rare these are as an accessory? These might be the only pair left in existence I'm treading on right now. Let's have a quick look in the back. Now you've noticed 2 things along here. First of all, squeezy handle again. Secondly, quarter lights. Same as in the front, we've got fixed quarter lights, which was becoming a bit of a throwback in the early 1980s. Think about the Mark III Escort a year or so later, which is big open windows. Secondly, we can see the Coke bottle design really prominent here in the back of the car. Climbing aboard, we have got the same door cards fully covering the door. We've got the same lovely brushed nylon. Interestingly, this car actually came with seatbelt fittings behind the parcel shelf, so fitting seatbelts was very easy as an aftermarket thing. Climbing in the back though, it's a bit tight on your head, ouch, and it's a bit tight on your knees. In many respects, this is just like a Cortina, because there's not a lot of room in one of those either. One thing this car also got as a lovely accessory, look at these headrests, matching colour, straight from the dealer back in 1981. Fantastic. Headroom though, sitting here in the back, is actually pretty respectable. So is shoulder room. It's, apart from the knee room and the fact you sit very, very low indeed in the seat, it's not too uncomfortable. You could do a few miles in the back of this. Quite nice really. Right, let's take the Avenger for a drive. So 4-speed manual gearbox, reverse is over that way, straight ahead, and no actual detent to stop you going all the way, so be a bit careful with that. And off we go. Oh, heavy steering at low speeds, but that's what we expect on a car with no power steering. Now, one thing you might notice in this car are the mirrors, which are quite a large size for the shape and size of the car. And these are actually a carryover from a different model in the range because, well, this was a run-out model and they had something else that run out as well. They had boxes and boxes of these in the factory. They're actually from a first-generation Sunbeam, which is why they look a little bit different to what you might expect the style of the car to have as a standard factory-fit mirror. Right, heading out onto the road, the engine is surprisingly willing. Nice smooth little thing as well. But you do notice instantly how heavy the steering is at low speeds, because obviously it's not power assisted in a car like this, but you get used to it pretty quickly, and as the speeds increase, so does the lightness of it. And the brakes are actually quite good. They're certainly comparable with anything else of the same era. Discs at the front, drums at the back. And you might have noticed we've got a choke down here, which is something you don't really see quite so much of these days. The gear change is really light and easy, and you can slot it straight from one gear to the next with no problem at all. It's lovely to use. Proper old school, nice 4-speed box. And typically of cars of the day, the A post and B post and C post are nice and slim, so you've got a great view all around you.
Roots' B car was first considered in 1963 to fit between the Imp and Arrow ranges, but needed to offer more refinement as cars were becoming more sophisticated, as were buyer expectations. And of course the company car phenomenon was something Roots really wanted to cash in on. The exterior styling by Roy Axe was signed off in 1965, and the interior was signed off in 1967, with 3 trim levels, which each got individual dash binnacles to mark them out as separate pegs in the hierarchy. Being very aware of the modern world and the modern market they were selling cars in, Roots even used female consultants to look at colour and trim to offer their opinions on the new car.
Now, contemporary car reviewers were very positive about the Avenger when it first came out, and in fact all through its life. It got good reviews. Comparing it to rivals like the Cortina and the Marina, it always did well, and particularly against the Marina, which was never particularly loved by reviewers, whereas this, and in fact all the Roots Group cars, were always just regarded as slightly a cut above than a lot of the mainstream rivals, which in many ways were very similar. The Roots ones just seem to have something a little extra to them, which is always a bit nice. Chrysler put a lot of effort into designing this car and making it as good as possible for one big reason, not just to dominate the UK market, but because they wanted it to be a world car. They wanted it to sell all around the world in lots of different markets.
Now, typically of Roots, this was a badge engineering marvel, although unusually there were no Humber or Singer versions. The car was known by a plethora of names: the Chrysler Avenger, the Chrysler Sunbeam in Europe, the Talbot Avenger, Sunbeam Avenger, Dodge Avenger in South Africa, the Plymouth Cricket in America and Canada, the Dodge 1800 in Brazil, the Dodge Polara in Brazil and Colombia, the Dodge 1500 in Uruguay, the Dodge 1500 in Argentina and Colombia, the Volkswagen 1500 in Argentina, and of course the Sunbeam 1300 and Sunbeam 1600. In 1979, with Chrysler Europe now out of the picture, PSA resurrected the Talbot brand and kept the Avenger name going alongside the Horizon. However, Chrysler kept the naming rights to the car and brought it back as the Dodge Avenger in 2007. Obviously a very different car indeed. The car's manufacture is another story in itself. It was manufactured by Roots, a division of Chrysler Europe by then, from 1970 to 1978. And from 1976 it was badged as the Chrysler Avenger. In 1979 PSA Peugeot Citroën took over ownership of the factories, and so it was badged as a Talbot Avenger. It was initially built at Ryton, later a Peugeot factory in the middle of England, and later on it was built at Linwood near Glasgow, where this particular car was built.
Well, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this little run around in this really interesting car, once one of the most popular cars on Britain's roads, but today one of the rarest. I've certainly enjoyed it. It's certainly lived up to its reputation as being, well, perhaps a bit better than some of its rivals. If you've enjoyed this, please, as always, hit like and subscribe, and join us again next time driving something completely different.